Welcome back to North of the Broad. I'm your host, Karen Wyman, coming to you from Higher Ground in Beaufort. I'm joined this afternoon by a good friend and repeat guest, Janie Lackman. Hey, Janie.
Wonderful to be here.
I'm so glad that you're here because we're going to talk about turtles, right? We're going to talk about the Fripp Island Sea Turtle Program. And so if there's any of our viewers out here who may be new to the area and are unfamiliar with what you all do and the fact that turtle season is upon us, would you kind of just enlighten people who may be looking for a little bit more information?
Sure. Well, what we do is we are a nest protection program permitted by the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Well, what does that mean? That means we go out really early in the morning looking for signs of nesting. So the biggest sign, of course, that we're looking for are turtle tracks. And we follow those and locate the nests and then follow them all the way through incubation. Turtle season typically starts in our area mid-May, and the nesting part lasts through mid-August, with hatching going into October.
Yeah.
So it's a long season. We started really early this
I
year.
know. So before we got started, you already told me that just this morning, we were at mid-May, that you had 3 nests that you discovered this morning. But those 3 nests are already gotten you to 12?
Yes, we already have 12 nests, which is huge for us by this time.
Which is great. I mean, obviously it's great because you're looking for that population to get larger every year and to have those, mothers come back and to have as many hatchlings as possible. However, it presents, a lot of work for you and your turtle team.
It is. It's a labor of love.
I was just going to say that it's a labor of love.
It definitely is. I mean, it's a large time commitment, but it's hard work, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the most fulfilling things. But let's talk about what goes into what you do, what your team does, and what the general community, and particularly those people who are living or renting out on Fripp Island, can do to help you protect those turtles. So lighting, let's talk about lighting and what's the big deal, right?
Right, lighting, lights out. That's really important, and that's important throughout the whole season. It's important for our mamas coming in to nest, because if they get scared off by lights or by people or what have you, they could dump that entire clutch in the ocean. So we'll lose 120 or more hatchlings just as a result of one light. So it's really important to keep those lights off the beach, and that's not just the housing lights. It's flashlights, cell phones, any type of light on the beach causes problems. And as we get into the hatching season, it's deadly. It can definitely confuse a mama turtle, but they can usually get turned around, or we can help them get turned around and get back to the water. With the hatchlings,
not so much.
Not so much.
Right, they need to know that they're moving toward the ocean, in the right direction, in order to get out into the water and to start to make their way into this big world.
Well, they have a limited amount of energy because they just have that yolk sac that they've absorbed till they get out to the Sargasso Sea. So any energy that they spend going the wrong way, going towards light, confused, is going to mean they don't have that energy for that 3-day swim. So it lowers their chance of survival.
Yeah, overall chances. So obviously, we know that light's probably the biggest thing, and we've talked about this in the times that you've been a guest here and as we start into turtle season, but there are lots of other things that can be deterrents and obstacles. So we want to just inform the public when they're out there on the beach what else they can do during the day to help with this process.
Well, there are lots of little things that you can do. Those big sand holes that you dig.
That my 13-year-old son likes to dig. Yes, I know about those.
And those sand castles, we need to make sure the sand castles are flattened and that those holes are filled in. Because again, we can get a mama trapped, or it's deadly for our hatchlings. So that's really important. It's also important that we just pack in and pack out.
Yep.
Everything we take on the beach, we take when we go home. We want to make sure that the only thing we're leaving are our footprints. And that's important because anything that we leave out on the beach can become an obstacle, whether or not we're leaving a sand toy or we're leaving a baggie or some form of plastic. Anything that we leave out on the beach can be bad for our turtles. So that's really important. And the trash issue we already talked about. Giving our turtle space. Everybody wants to see a turtle, but it's really important if you see them to give them space, because they're there for a reason, and we got to let them do what they're there to do.
Like give the mama turtles her privacy.
Exactly. Make sure she's able to lay, and we don't have that problem.
And obviously, just from an environmental standpoint, we want to talk about making sure that we keep our beaches, whether it's Fripp Island, Hunting Island when it opens, hopefully Harbor Island, all those places that we go to that we enjoy so much, that we keep them clean of all that debris, not just for the turtles, but for all of us. So just always be conscientious about that. And I do with all my kids, grab everything as we're going. And I always do say to Alex, you're going to fill that in. And you taught me that, by the way.
Good.
You taught me that, so I'm passing that on.
Wonderful.
So obviously plastics are an issue for our sea turtles, right? I mean, they can ingest them, they can get caught in them, not just for the hatchlings on the beach, but as those items unfortunately get left and get picked up into the ocean. We've seen some of those videos about how horrible they can affect and deter the marine life.
Right, and plastics overall are a huge problem, and one of the things I really encourage people to do is think about their imprint when they're using those plastics. A plastic bag that gets stuck in the ocean, they think it's a jellyfish, they ingest it, that can be deadly for a turtle. It's also deadly for other creatures that are out there, but when you talk about those microplastics, the little things, all that stuff doesn't really totally break down, and it becomes these little tiny things. There was a study a number of years ago that I heard about where 100% of the washback hatchlings in Florida had ingested plastic. 100%. I mean, it's just something we need to think about.
Yep, something we can all do better at. So I know the best way that there is to view a sea turtle. Do you?
I do.
Tell us a little bit about that.
My favorite way to view a sea turtle, and what I always tell people to do, is to visit the South Carolina Aquarium Sea Turtle Hospital. And they are going through a major expansion project, and they're opening the end of May with the Sea Turtle Hospital front and center. So it's a way that you can always see turtles.
Awesome. I know we have just a few more moments to just finish up here, but just so that we get a little plug in here for the 10th annual Turtle Crawl. It is taking place this year on July the 14th. Where can people get information about the Turtle Crawl?
They can get information on our Facebook page, run sign up. Those are the two best places.
All right, well, Janie, we appreciate you being a guest on North of the Broad. We appreciate all the work that you do out on Fripp Island and your dedication to this awesome cause.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Always, always, always. We'll be right back with our next guest on North of the Broad.